Hey everybody, Jeff Morrell here, one of the founders of the Freedom Team at eXp Realty. We are about 3,000 agents all across the country, 7 countries outside of the U.S., and we're doing some big things, growing like crazy. So I want to thank you for tuning in to the May 2023 housing market update. We got some good information to share. Stick around. Here we go. So I appreciate you jumping on here. Be sure to hit the like button if you find some good information here. Share this with any of your home buyer, potential home buyer friends, coworkers, home sellers, people thinking about selling their home this summer. We're going to hit some good information for them as well. We're going to be digging through the different facts, reading past the headlines, which I think is super important these days. I'm going to be doing this more on a nationwide basis as far as statistics. I would tell you, if you are looking to buy or sell, get with a local realtor, get with me if you're here in Colorado Springs, whatever. We can dive into the local market statistics as well. But we're going to hit this more on a nationwide basis because I'm working with agents all over the country. Lots of things to share here. So in this market update, we're going to be talking about home prices. We're going to be talking about the foreclosure situation. What is the truth behind that? What is that really looking like? We're going to be hitting some different things on inventory, the low inventory. What does that really mean right now? We're going to be talking about the Fed, their recent meeting with interest rates, and what does that look like? So anyway, a lot to share here. Let's dive on into it. I think a good place to start is this quote right here from Doug Duncan with Fannie Mae. On a quarterly basis, home prices rose a seasonally adjusted 1% in Q1 of 2023. The fact that prices rose slightly in the first quarter is evidence of significant pent-up mortgage demand despite ongoing affordability constraints. So certainly good news here in the first quarter. The big question is, have home value declines stabilized? That's the question. That's the thing we're all looking at. If we're looking at the leading indicators that measure month-over-month home prices, this is a good graph to look at. I think we can make a case that it's beginning to happen, that things are starting to stable out. If we look at this, Case-Shiller, FHFA, and CoreLogic, this is the month-over-month prices going all the way back to January of last year. Well, last year, of course, started off great. Then around the middle of the year, we started to see home prices, month over month, they start to slightly decrease. A lot of that due to the rising mortgage rates we saw back there in the middle of the year. Well, fast forward to the latest information here, February, for FHFA, and Case-Shiller, look at March and CoreLogic, we start to see that turn happen. It's a little early, but possibly safe to say that as you look at this, some of the worst home price declines are possibly behind us. What you can say for sure is that home prices are not in this crazy decline. They're definitely not in a free fall. That's important for us to remember, because you turn on the news and you hear that and it's like, wow, the worst is not even here yet, and we should expect home price declines this year. Well, it's not what the facts are showing us. To continue on this theme, Black Knight said this: just 5 months ago, prices were declining on a seasonally adjusted month-over-month basis in 92% of major U.S. markets. Fast forward to March, and the situation has done a literal 180, with prices now rising in 92% of markets from February. And that's certainly welcome news for us. Certainly welcome news for homeowners that are wondering what's happening with prices across the country. If you're a homeowner right now, and I would tell you, pay attention to this. You're going to get some good information here. Home buyers, same thing. It's going to give you some good information. Should I buy now? Should I sell now? What are we looking at going into the summer? Well, here's what's coming up. We're going to start seeing forecast revisions. We're already seeing this. Fannie Mae's change, back in March, just a couple of months ago, they said we might lose a little over 4% in value in homes across the country this year. Well, Fast forward to April, they're already adjusting that, like, wait, hang on, maybe a 1% value loss this year. I believe we'll see that continue, and we'll see a year that'll be flat, if not even slightly positive this year in home prices. The lack of inventory, that is what's key. So certainly be on the lookout for those forecast revisions out there. We're going to start seeing that, I think, from other agencies out there as time continues to go on here. There's been a lot of information in the last few weeks, recent foreclosure information that I want to cover. One of the reasons that we're seeing positive movement in prices is because of just a huge lack of inventory. And I think this graphic right here sums it up pretty good. This is a look at the buyer's market versus the seller's market. So where are we at right now? Well, here we see, the months of inventory of homes for sale in this country going all the way back to the late 90s. And we went through the 2008 crisis and inventory rose in this country. It was a buyer's market, way more homes for sale than there were the number of buyers to buy them. So what does that do? That drives prices down. Well, then over the last several years, we've been in this seller's market. We're still there today. It's just super low inventory. That's important to remember if you're looking to put your home on the market. We need more inventory. We're still at a time where homes that are priced right are selling quickly today across the country. My wife and I, we're seeing multiple offers again, which is honestly surprising to me, but that's what's happening here in Colorado Springs in a lot of cases. Oftentimes we hear information in the news that says, well, inventory is going to rise with a flood of foreclosures coming to the market. And there was a news report, that came out from Adam, in the middle of April. Here's what it said. The title, was U.S. foreclosure activity continues to climb in Q1 of this year. And while that's factually correct, I think this is completely misleading to people. Headlines start popping up like these. More Americans are going to lose their homes to foreclosure as foreclosures on U.S. properties rise. Foreclosures are on the rise. Foreclosures jumped 22%. Repossessions hit a high of the last 3 years. Foreclosures jumped. You see those things, all over, many times in our business, outside of our business. Those things are factually correct, yes, but oftentimes very misleading. A couple of things that are critically important about that is, as realtors, we have that conversation with potential clients and past clients. We have the facts. We need to have the facts. We need to have a relevant market opinion based upon fact. Well, the first piece here, there were over 1 million fewer foreclosures in the last year than in the average heading into 2020. So anytime you look at information, we always want to go back to 2017, 2018, 2019, really the last 3 normal years, I would say, in the business. And the average of foreclosures in those 3 years, you see it right here, 598,000, almost 600,000 foreclosures each year. I don't want to wish that upon anyone. Certainly my heart goes out to those that are experiencing it, but it's a fact in our business. This does happen. Well, we go through 2020 and COVID, and the moratorium comes about, and you literally can't foreclose on people. And those numbers drop through 2020 and 2021 and 2022. And as we've come out of the moratorium, we should expect foreclosures to rise, but not at the rate that's going to dramatically impact inventory and shoot us up into a buyer's market. Whoever's writing those headlines obviously didn't look at this graphic. This is a look at U.S. properties with foreclosure filings going all the way back to 2005. Now, if you go and, you see that big rise up there, the peak, right? That was during 2008, during the housing crisis, when back then there were over 9 million total foreclosed distressed properties, deed in lieu properties, all the things that we know in the distressed sale category that happened. A lot of people hurt, a lot of people impacted by that. And today, we sit down here on the right, a slight tick up. So, nothing like what the headlines really lead us to believe. So, realtor friends out there, being armed with the facts is critically important. The foreclosure activity by the numbers, if you want to have those numbers handy, well, 95,712 properties with a filing in the first quarter of this year, 65,346 that started the process in the first quarter. And you see the rest of the numbers there. Our job is to have the facts, to understand that the headlines do more to terrify than they do to clarify what's actually going on. So what's the message in all this? The message is pretty simple. It's this, I think. Realtor.com summed it up pretty well. There's no reason to panic, at least not yet. Foreclosure filings began to tick up in late 2021 after the federal foreclosure moratorium ended, and the moratorium was enacted in the early days of COVID-19 when millions of Americans lost their jobs to prevent a tsunami of homeowners losing their properties. The job of forbearance was to give people a way to bridge the gap during COVID, and it did its job, and that's a good thing. And as we come out of that this time, we should expect more foreclosures than what we've seen last year, but not a number that would lead to the tsunami, as they call it here, of homeowners losing their properties. So being educated, having the facts, is critically important in this market. So, let's go into the topic of recession. The Fed met recently here. They raised the Fed funds rate, causing more and more questions about recession. Would that come? And I use their words right here from their most recent statement that came out in April, where they said, we expect a mild recession starting later this year with a recovery over the subsequent 2 years. Now, I'm not here to say a recession is coming or when it would or how long it would last or anything like that. What I am here to say is the talk of recession is going to heat up and continue to heat up as we go throughout this year. The economy slowing down, the Fed working to slow the economy down. So what did they actually say? Well, here's their summary of their March meeting. The summary came out in April. Given their assessment of the potential economic effects of the recent banking sector developments, the staff's projection at the time of the March meeting included a mild recession starting later this year with a recovery over the subsequent 2 years. So looking at that, understanding that, and knowing that's going to be out there, there are a couple things that we want to understand. One, what defines a recession? Two, the question that we should ask is, how would housing be affected? So who defines a recession first? The National Bureau of Economic Research defines a recession as a significant decline in economic activity spreading across the economy lasting more than a few months. And there's this common wisdom, it's 2 months of negative GDP. But again, the question I want to go back to is, how would housing be impacted? This is really an area right now that I think, being a student of our business and having answers to how would housing be affected by a recession, how would that affect prices? How would that affect interest rates, mortgage rates specifically? So the first question, how would housing be impacted? Well, Bankrate sums it up like this. They said during a traditional recession, the Fed will usually lower interest rates, and this creates an incentive for people to spend money and stimulate the economy. It also typically leads to more affordable mortgage rates, which leads to more opportunity for home buyers. So there you have it from Bankrate. How does a recession affect housing? Typically leads to lower interest rates, and that creates an incentive for people to spend money that then leads to more affordable mortgage rates. Nobody wants a recession to come in the country. That certainly is a term for an economic slowdown. It will affect people, but oftentimes, typically in our business, it's an incentive in the housing market. We go through this. The Fed said, a mild recession. I think what we really need to be able to discuss are, what are the pros and cons of buying during a recession? What are the pros and cons of selling during a recession? Being able to have that conversation with somebody to say, okay, what are the advantages? What are some of the disadvantages? Well, the pros of maybe less competition, lower prices, lower rates could come out of that. The cons, well, maybe stricter lending requirements. Certainly with some of the bank activity we've been seeing, we're likely to see that. Fewer options available. Maybe economic uncertainty now enters the picture. People think, am I going to have my job? Is my job going to be secure going forward? So as realtors, there are things that we need to discuss and really be the expert in so that families, individuals buying can make a powerful and confident decision on buying a home during this time. But with the facts at hand that we need to have readily available, or what happens with prices? What happens with interest rates? How does this affect what we do? There's so many things out in the world that we can't control, but as realtors, what we can control, we can grow to be the expert in the housing market. So how does it affect prices? Well, the first thing is that a recession doesn't mean falling prices. A recession doesn't mean a housing crisis. So look at this. The last 6 recessions, 4 of the 6 times, home prices actually appreciated. Twice they depreciated. Once marginally in the early 90s, but what everybody remembers is, of course, 2008, when homes lost almost 20% in value. A lot of people were hurt. Those were the hardest few years of my 21 years in real estate by far. I mean, we did so many short sales back in the day and foreclosures. That was just a challenging time for everybody. And when people hear the word recession, that's what we think of in this country, because the meaning of the word changed back in 2008. So I think having some of this information handy, having it ready to be able to get out into the hands of people that are asking that question is our job right now as realtors. As a realtor, I have these slides on my phone. I have them printed out when I go to meet with people so that I have this information handy. The second thing, how a recession would impact mortgage rates. Typically, it means falling rates. If you go back and look at those same 6 recessions in our country, you see that every time we've seen mortgage rates fall, going all the way back to the early 80s. And having that information available to people that are asking that question, I believe will give them the confidence to make a powerful decision relative to home buying. I think this talk is going to continue as we go throughout the summer. So I want to close out with this. We live in one of the most foundationally strong housing markets of our lifetime, if not the strongest housing market that we've ever seen. I'll give you the 2 things to sort of back that up and tell you why I can say that. First one, this right here, the current rate on existing mortgages. According to FHFA, as of the 4th quarter of last year, the majority of those mortgages are below a rate of 5%. Over 80% of the existing mortgages are below a 5% interest rate. Over 50% are below 4%. Some loans that aren't going to default, those loans right there, people are going to work as hard as they can to keep that mortgage. They can't go out and even come close to renting an apartment for what they have their mortgage payment on right now. And that's a very strong foundation for homeowners across the country. The second reason I can say that is this right here. Americans are sitting on tremendous equity. Almost 68% have either paid off their mortgage completely or have at least 50% equity. When you break down the numbers, 38.7% of people in this country own their home free and clear. That's tremendous. That's awesome. It's amazing. 28.9% have at least 50% equity. You add those 2 together, you get almost 68% that are in a position where they either have it paid off or have 50% equity. That's an extremely strong foundation for homeowners across the country. The one thing that always reminds me of is back in 2008, people walked away from their homes because they literally owed more on their home than what it was worth. And now fast forward to this most recent crisis over the last couple of years, COVID, and all the things we've dealt with. Well, people have said this: we're going to do things differently. We're going to protect the equity in our homes. We didn't do it right the first time, but we're going to do it right this time. And that's showing up, building an extremely strong foundation for this housing market. The reason I bring that up is when articles come up and they say, okay, foreclosures are on the rise, I'm telling you, read beyond the headlines. Dig into the facts of what's actually happening and know that we live in a very, very strong housing market. So that's what I've got for May of 2023. If you're a home buyer or a homeowner possibly looking to sell, get in touch with an agent that you know. Get out, you talk to them, whatever, find out what's happening locally there in your market, put all these numbers together, and it's going to help you make a really, really, valid decision. Don't be misled by the headlines and all the things that you're reading out there and things that you're seeing. If that's all you're seeing, I'm telling you, you're missing the big picture of what's truly going on. For buyers or sellers right here in Colorado Springs, be sure to get in touch with my wife, myself. We've been doing this now for 21 years. We can definitely figure out, do an analysis on your home, look at your situation, get you in touch with a lender if you're a buyer, figure out what do those rates look like. There's all kinds of programs out there now. We can buy down rates. There's lots of things that we can do to really make it affordable. Keep in mind that if you're renting right now, your interest rate's 100%. That's the truth of that. My wife and I, we just put a house on the market here just a few days ago. $1,150,000. We had multiple offers and had it under contract over asking price 4 days after we listed it. I was surprised by that. But guys, the summer season is off to a really good start. So anyway, lots of things to share, guys. I hope you got some value out of this. If you did, like I said, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to share this with friends, family, coworkers, other agents you might know, if this would be good for them to see, whatever. We'll be back next month with another market update. Be sure to share it. Be sure to like it. Be sure to subscribe. We got new videos coming out multiple times a week. Lots of good information out there. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for looking. We'll see you again soon. Take care.